I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're diving into the incredible life stories of Alice Love, author of When Great Granny Was Small Like Me and Yes, Sister. These heartwarming memoirs take us on a journey through history, comparing childhoods 80 years apart and reflecting on a life dedicated to nursing and family. Get ready to be inspired by Alice's vivid storytelling and her touching tribute to her sister. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to her channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. We are joined right now by both Alice and her daughter, Rebecca. Welcome to you both. Thanks so much for joining us here today.
Pleasure to be here, Logan.
Yes, it's great to be here.
Great to have you
Thank you.
on the show. Alice, I'll start out by asking you, what was your inspiration for writing these books?
One of my nieces had 3 preschool child care centres, and she wanted a book of this type as a teaching tool, but she couldn't find that sort of book in any of the bookshops she went to, and she asked me whether I could make one for her. So that's how it inspired. I thought back to my childhood and pictured all the different appliances that would have been used during a typical day. I could see them in my mind's eye, complete with brand names. How different to the appliances of today.
Amazing. Tell us about the characters in your book. How did you develop these characters, and are they based on any real people?
Well, yes, they're based on myself, and I did that from a childhood photo.
Mhm.
For the modern child, I used a combination of 2 of my youngest granddaughters. For the girl sitting in the rocking chair, I asked one of the girls to pose for me. The result turned out to be much more like my actual model than the combination with her sister that I've been aiming for in the other drawings. I loved
Wonderful.
drawing as a child and was inspired by pencil portraits of Dad's relatives hanging on the wall at home. They were most beautifully done, and I'd stand for hours just gazing at them. They were as good as any photos.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What kind of research did you do for the book?
I needed to find appliances from my childhood. So my husband and I spent about a week going around most of the small museums in the Canterbury area, seeking out the exact items we used to have, and I made a sketch of each. None of these museums had our particular brand of flat iron. After we'd exhausted all the museums, I wondered if there was one in our shed. Sure enough, we actually had 3 of them, plus the clip-on handle that unclipped when the iron one was using cooled too much. The irons would sit on the back of the coal range, keeping hot. The cool one would be replaced on the range and the handle transferred to the next iron. On the table near the stove would be an ironing blanket folded in 4. This would be covered with an ironing sheet folded in 2, and a metal stand stood beside them for the iron. The iron would be run over a small clean cloth to remove any dust when that came from the stove. Ironing was a very hot job, and the iron was heavy too.
Sure, a lot of that has changed over the years. People hardly iron at all anymore, I think. It's all permanent press and, man-made fabrics and all of that stuff. What books are you reading right now?
I'm currently reading Ralph Moody's series of books set in the early 1900s in America. The wonderful example his father had in his life until he passed away when Ralph was 11. From then on, Ralph was the man of the family. His greatest love was horses and ranch life. I also enjoy the response from the great-grandchildren when they hear my book, When Great Granny Was Small Like Me, being read to them.
Amazing. That's great. I'm sure you love that when the books are read to your grandchildren for sure. How do you think your background and experiences have shaped your writing?
Most, I don't, books have always been an important part of my life, inherited from my mother, who would spend a lot of time reading as a child, preferably sitting high in a pear tree in the vicarage grounds at Rangiora. And as children, we had access to a wide range of reading material, including cloth baby books, a large collection of assorted children's books, and a children's encyclopedia. At the age of 11, I'd read all of these, plus all the adult books in the bookcase in the lounge, including the Bible and Dad's veterinary book for cattle and sheep. Some of these books were of doubtful suitability for a 10-year-old, but in fact, one really only takes in what one readily understands. If I hadn't turned up in the cowshed to help with the milking, I could probably be found lying on my bed reading. I still enjoy reading. These days, I start the day by reading my Bible and then the daily newspaper. I also enjoy autobiographies.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Can you give us a sneak peek into your next project?
My latest book has just been published, Yes, Sister, as an autobiography from when I started my nursing training on April the 1st, 1947, and covers my life until the end of 1956. In the very near future, I will be republishing my first book, Manahuni A to Z, which is also an autobiography. It starts in 1928 and fills in the years leading up to Yes, Sister.
Wonderful. Well, we're looking forward to that for sure. Such an amazing era, such an amazing life. Tell us, what is the most surprising thing you've learned through your writing career?
The most surprising thing I've learned while considering these questions is that my writing is probably pretty easy for me because of all the reading I've done. But I'm amazed at the advances I've made with my portrait drawing since illustrating this book. It stimulated my interest in petrol portraits. I obtained a small sketchbook and was determined to copy whatever portrait interested me most in the daily newspaper. After doing about 60 sketches, I realized my style had changed and it was much easier. The result was far more like the original I was copying. I gave up using the newspaper and then begged the loan of photographs of many of my relatives. I presented each with the resulting laminated sketch, and my portfolio grew with the copies that I kept.
Amazing, amazing. Well, you've had quite a career, that's for sure. Now, Rebecca, I think you have some of Mom's books there. Can you hold up When Great Granny Was Small Like Me? There we go. When Great Granny Was Small Like Me by Alice Love. And that's actual artwork that your mom did, Rebecca, huh? On the cover?
That's correct. That was her original drawings, and her drawings certainly have advanced immensely, as she's mentioning just before, with all of the sketches that she's done over the years. And we've been very privileged to receive those sketches for anniversaries and birthdays and so on. It's wonderful.
Well, they are just beautiful. Are they done with watercolors? Are they done with how does Mom make those?
Yes, for this particular one, it's watercolors.
Yeah. Beautiful, really a beautiful, beautiful job. Wonderful. I'm glad you reproduced it for the cover of that book because that's great. So that's When Great Granny Was Small Like Me. Can you tell us a little bit about the story of When Great Granny Was Small Like Me?
Well, I went through a complete day in my mind, and from waking up first thing in the morning and getting dressed, preparing breakfast, going out and feeding the fowls outside and collecting eggs, then starting on the housework. Then we had made a trip by car. That was, of course, the car we had in those days was a Model T Ford initially. And we actually had one. It was quite amazing. And then came home and wrote a letter to someone and wrapped up a parcel. And then it was time to go and play. But you had to put a hat on. And so then you try on a collection of old hats in front of the mirror. And you do happen to have been into Mum's lipstick while you were collecting that hat, of course.
Amazing.
And then you're out playing and the various things that we would have had in the old days.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, these are books for children to read, to learn about what the old days were like?
Yes, that it also has been suggested that for someone who has lost the ability to read, perhaps if they've had a stroke, this might be an interesting book for them to make a start on again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's a wonderful story. Life is so different from you harvesting the eggs and dealing with the fowls and then Model T Ford. Life's a lot different for your great-grandchildren, that's for sure. Let's talk a little bit about your book, Yes, Sister. Tell us about the book, Yes, Sister.
Well, my sister had been in a rest home for many years because she had Parkinson's disease. We used to visit her every Monday. And one day she said to me, "Oh, had I thought about writing another book?" And I said, "Yes, I have." Actually, what I said was, "Yes, sister." And that was going to be the name of the book. And of course, answering her question at the same time, which I hadn't even considered what I was doing there.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, we're glad your sister inspired you to write that book. And in the book, what do you tell the story of? What's the book about? Yes, sister.
About my nursing career. And then after that, my married life until 1956, when my third child was born.
Amazing. Amazing. What was it like for you being a nurse starting out in 1947? That's a long time ago now.
It was soon after the war, and we were nursing returned servicemen, and that was the first ward that I went into. And it was only 2 years after the war ceased, and they were pretty disturbed young men,
Yeah.
but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Amazing. And well, they must have had an angel of mercy in you. So that was great that they had you there to help them and care for them. Now, I understand when you were writing Yes, Sister, you were caring for your sister and writing a chapter a week. Is that what happened?
Yes, right. I was writing a chapter a week and taking it in, and her daughter would read it to her during the week.
Wonderful.
And that went on till it was finished.
Amazing.
And I illustrated it later.
What was that like sharing each chapter with your sister? That must have been a nice time, right?
Oh, yes, it was great.
Yeah. Yeah. Did your sister ever work as a nurse as well?
And no, she was a land girl at home during the war.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. And when you look at the other book you wrote, When Great Granny Was Small Like Me, is it amazing to you the differences in your childhood compared to that of your great-granddaughter?
Well, it's happened gradually over the years, and when you stop and look at it now, it's a long way, but
Yeah,
it seems to have all happened so quickly.
exactly, exactly. Well, you think about 80 years ago, no television, only radio, right?
That's right.
Cars were very primitive, like you said, the Model T Ford.
Model T Ford, that's right.
If you were lucky, I had some chickens on the farm or chickens in the yard to give you some eggs each day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd
Yes.
imagine heating your house was a lump of coal into some kind of oven or
Yeah,
stove.
yeah. We had a coal range, and that did the cooking too. We didn't have electricity.
Amazing, amazing. Do you feel in some ways your childhood is better than childhoods today? I mean, because you got to work
And
hard, learn a lot.
yeah, in some ways, I think it was better. Um, oh, well, to me, probably a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because, kids today walk around like this on their
They,
phones all the time, right?
yes,
And
and
you
we
didn't even have a phone, I'd imagine. If you had no electricity, you had no phone,
had.
right?
Well, our telephone had a battery.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Amazing, amazing.
It was a great big wooden box with two batteries in it,
Yeah.
and you
Ama
turned it to for Morse code uh,
Party line.
party line.
mm, amazing, amazing. And do you feel your childhood was similar to other people who grew up in the same area around you?
Well, we were on a farm,
Hmm.
and electricity came to the other areas sooner,
Yeah,
where we were pretty slow getting it.
yeah. Rebecca, when your mother tells you these stories about, the coal and the no electricity and, you know, all the, different challenges they have, I mean, you must feel blessed that you grew up in the era that you grew up in. It's vastly different. Obviously, it's much, much different for the great grandkids, but as her child, things are much different as well, right?
Certainly are, and it always astounds me the amount of hard work that was laid on families back in those eras, and the children were, equally efficient in working the farm as the parents were almost, from a very young age. And we really don't know how easy we have it, especially grandchildren. Even I've got grandchildren as well, so it's a total different era, and they would have no idea how to survive on a farm in the days where my mum grew up.
Amazing, yeah, amazing. Yeah, my mother was born in 1918, so her upbringing was a lot different than mine, but she had to shovel the coal in the morning to get the heat going in the house and all of that stuff. So it's amazing. Tell me, you were a nurse for how many years? Do you remember, Alice, how many years you were a nurse for?
Uh, well, I nursed for the 3 years I did my training, and then I got married.
Hmm.
And then when the children left home, I went back nursing again, first as a district nurse and then as a practice nurse in a country practice. And I nursed there for 10 years.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. What was the highlight of your nursing? Was it caring for the young soldiers who had returned from World War II? Tell me a little bit about that.
Um, they were, oh, look, it's hard to remember now, but I can see them, a line of them each side of the ward,
Yeah.
and they were bored and they were having nightmares, and
Mm,
uh, they were a bit sympathetic towards the nurses, but they'd have you on, including heating up a thermometer and a cup of tea, so that it was showing a very horrendous
Temperature.
figure on the thermometer.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted you to think they were really ill. But
Amazing.
anyway, uh, you'd have to retake the temperature
Yeah.
and you'd stay with them all the time then.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, they were lucky to have you. Like I said, how many children do you have? How many grandchildren? How many great-grandchildren? Rebecca, feel free to help out here. That's big math
Yes,
equations here.
right. There's 6 children and 22 grandchildren.
Wow.
And where are we on the
I'm not
greats?
even certain how many greats we've got.
About 32 or 33.
A lot.
Amazing. After 30, we stopped counting. That's what it is. Yeah, that's amazing. That's wonderful. It's wonderful. And how old is your well, I won't ask how old your oldest child is. How old is your oldest grandchild? And
Oh
Rebecca,
my
you can
goodness.
help out here. Approximately.
40?
Yeah, probably close to 40, somewhere around there, I think.
Amazing. Amazing.
44, yeah.
Amazing. Well, soon I think you might, well, how old is the oldest great-grandchild?
I
Approximately.
think 15.
Yeah, maybe
13.
some.
Okay. So maybe in 5 or 10 more years, you're going to have the great-grandchildren. I think that's something to look forward to. Mm.
Yeah, well, I'm 96. I don't know whether I'm going to be around a lot longer.
Well, I think you're going to be around a lot longer because you're very sharp and you've got a lot of energy and you've got a lot of great humor about you. So I think you're all set for those great-grandchildren. It's something to strive for sure. So the latest book you're going to write is a memoir, right, of your nursing years? Or tell me about that.
The no the one that I'm just going to publish is the book I wrote first, and
Okay.
that was
Manahuni.
Manahuni, and that was the farm I grew up on.
Okay.
And that one is from the year I was born until I started nursing. So it was
Amazing.
because that's my sister asked if I was going to write another book.
Yeah. Amazing. Now, what's the name of this book, the first book you wrote?
Manahuni, A to Z, and it's all short stories
Okay.
with each letter of the alphabet.
Okay, great. And what does Metahuni mean?
Manahuni, it was a mythical Maori tribe,
Okay.
and it's a New Zealand farm, and it was named after a farm that my father trained on,
Yeah.
and it had that mythical name. And when he got his own farm, it was very similar to the farm he trained on, and he gave it the same name.
Amazing. Amazing. Now, have you ever traveled from New Zealand? Have you gone to another country?
Yes, I've been to Australia a few times, and then I've been to Israel and
Rarotonga.
Rarotonga.
Wow, that's great. It's not easy to get places from New Zealand. It seems like it's very far away, you know. I think you'd have to be in a plane for about 20 hours to get here to the United States, that's for sure.
It's a long way from anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, it's hard to get there from here. It's a far, far away place. You know, we were talking a little bit before we let you go. Is there anything you want to let your great-grandchildren know or the viewers know about your life that you think is interesting to them and that would be a great takeaway for the end of this interview? No, that's a big question.
Oh, yes, I think it's to be happy with what you're doing, and to think of other people. You're not on your own, and everybody should be pulling together and looking after each other. And overall, we have a great God looking after all of us.
Yep, absolutely. And you've got a great family there, about 100 immediate family members, or so it seems, between the 6 children, the 23 grandkids, and the 30-something great grandkids. That's a lot of love and a lot of support from your daughter, Rebecca, as well. And that's terrific. And you've definitely got the right last name, Alice Love, because I got a feeling your life is surrounded with it. And Alice has penned two wonderful books. One is called When Great Granny Was Small Like Me. The other is called Yes, Sister. And these are heartwarming memoirs that take us on a journey through history, comparing childhoods 80 years apart and reflecting on a life dedicated to nursing and family. And these books are not only wonderful to read for the whole family, for children and for parents to read to their children, but they're also beautifully illustrated. And that original artwork was done by none other than Alice Love. Alice and Rebecca, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, Logan.
Thank you for having us.
You guys did great. Thanks so much. I appreciate your time. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.